guys, welcome to Katie's Insight, where we have a super professional setup with a big white sheet behind me. I just got a glimpse of the monitor and I was like, it looks really bad. And I've heard y'all be like, you need another background. I know, if I can get some extra money at some point, we'll be able to do that and keep trucking along. But let's right now talk about stimulus, because y'all know that's the insight I want to give you, because we're all struggling, we need help, and I'm here at least to do my part and try to help you guys. So today's video I want to talk about, and I've heard people talking somewhat about this, but they haven't really dove into it, and I feel like there were a lot of hidden gems in this interview I want to break down for you guys about where things are going with the Trump administration, where stimulus is going, and more importantly, are we getting executive orders soon? Because it looks like there might be some possibilities that we might get some type of help from somewhere. Guys, I want to remind you, $100 gift card giveaway in this video. Very simple. This is all you have to do to be entered. Like every video you see, subscribe, hit notifications, comment, share the content, boom. You're entered, you're eligible. That's all you have to do. Make sure and do it for every video you see, guys. And new rule, the more times you comment, the more times you share, the more chances you have to win. So if you leave 100 comments, 100 times more chance to win. I will announce winners tomorrow on Monday. Good luck. Also, guys, if you want more one-on-one stimulus help in your individual area or your specific needs, go to my Facebook page, Katie's Insight, like the page, and then join the group. The group is Katie's Corner. Will be changed to Katie's Insight soon. Go on there, ask all the stimulus questions you want or you need to ask, specifically for your area. We have people in there and we're all just trying to help each other. We're not selling anything. It's completely free. We're just a bunch of scared people all trying to get together and help one another when the government won't. Okay, on with the video. So let's back up and tell you where everything is at. So right now we have 3 different dates coming up for stimulus. We have December 2nd, December 7th, and December 11th. Let me start with the latest one because that's the easiest. December 11th is when they vote. The Congress votes on that stopgap bill to keep the government up, running, and functioning. They've already had this one other time in October. It passed without a lot of hitches. We thought then we might get stimulus, but nah, nobody cares. Let them starve, they say. So what happens? So instead of that, they went ahead and just passed the stopgap bill and everybody focused on the election, where, of course, Nancy focused on getting the post office where she wants, and Trump focused on getting Amy Coney Barrett an S.J. Escoutus where he wanted, the Supreme Court justice. Interesting, they both tried to stack things in their favor. Remember, guys, I don't trust any of these people, which I've said to y'all on repeat. Here are some interesting reasons why. But now, in regard to where this is going, we have December 11th as that date. Now, here's what's interesting. We have, I had a half hiccup, half burp come up. So my voice got a lot of those. Don't you hate when I hate when my body's being a body. So we have 2 dates leading up to that, December 2nd and December 7th. Those 2 dates are dates where the Congress is going to be coming back from their week-long vacation of Thanksgiving. Takes them a whole week to prepare because they get so much time off and we get to just sit and starve because who cares? Nancy in a refrigerator full of ice cream. Hey, girl. Makes me so mad. People are starving. She's like, we have to have 12 different ice cream. But get out of here. Get out of here, Nance, with your crap. Oh, yeah, you want us to be a socialist country, and yet you're a millionaire with a few homes. Get out of here. I'm so tired of these people. By the way, I'm not anti-socialism. I'm not pro-socialism. I think there's a way to marry capitalist society and socialism in a way that could be beneficial for everyone. Just like we have, as I've said, we have socialistic programs in this country, like Medicare and Social Security, and they work for people. You can have both if done right. If people just aren't awful. How about people just stop being awful at the top and we stop giving our power away and voting these awful people in? They still don't understand how Pelosi and McConnell are in office, 2 of the most evil people in our government. How are they still in office? But with all of this being said, we have those 2 dates, and those 2 dates are all about some big votes coming up. One I talked about the other day, it's about some money that's set aside for veterans that President Trump had done to give them better health care, which I think is super important because, as I've said, and you guys know, our sick, our disabled, our people on benefits, our elderly, we just crap on and we don't care. I think the way we're brainwashed to look at this is that they are not productive members of society, therefore they don't need to even live in comfort or be able to afford medication. This is what we do to them. Welcome to America. And we are all brainwashed by this. It is, this capitalistic mentality. And again, I don't fault capitalism, just like I don't fault socialism. It has to be done correctly. Things have to be in balance. Anything can be crap if you don't balance it out well, right? And I feel like that's what we're going through. So when it comes to all of this, here's what's going on. We have these dates set up where they're supposed to vote. They're voting on benefits for the veterans to see if they're going to be emergency funding or non-emergency funding. Apparently, if it's non-emergency funding, then all that money can go to just the veterans. But if they try to make it emergency funding, then it can be siphoned into other things. Because why not steal more from the veterans? They just risk their lives for the country. No big deal. No big deal. It's just your life. These people. And then the stopgap for the government. Now, couple things that are interesting about this. Rumor has it that with this stopgap, they're going to try to push through stimulus because we've heard both Democrats and Republicans on both sides. And both sides have said, we need to pass something. We need to pass something now. We need to pass it yesterday. And I don't think anybody necessarily disagrees with that. What I do disagree with, I think, is that both sides are stalling and neither side has any intention of passing anything until we know what's going on with the election. So that leaves the stopgap. Now, here's where it's going to get interesting. If we don't do anything until the election, that means until the end of January into February, we have no stimulus help. Now we're starting to see jobs with unemployment claims are on the rise. And y'all know we knew this was coming. We knew at some point this was going to be coming. So this is now becoming a big issue, as it typically is, right? So from here, what happens? Well, you can have the Congress vote all day, every day on what to do about the stopgap. And if they get something passed, which I think because it's in their best interest, because they're protecting their paychecks, I feel like none of these people should be allowed to take paychecks at this point. But because that's where we're at, they're protecting their best interests. Okay, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it, right? However, President Trump has actually been very quiet about whether he'll sign this. So it doesn't matter what they do. If President Trump doesn't sign off on this, it's not going to go through. And President Trump might not. When he was directly asked if he would, silence. And with Trump, him being loud is just as important as listening when he is quiet. And a lot of people don't always pick up on those nuances when it comes to Trump or when it comes to some of these big brash businessmen. You have to listen to what they say. Listen to what they don't say too, what they don't acknowledge. And then on top of that, shortly after, we had Mark Meadows come out and say, we don't know if Trump's going to sign this. So I was right. And what I was picking up on with that, that's just not Trump being facetious or he's done with the interview. That was strategic. Remember, I know a lot of people think because he's loud and brash that he's stupid. This man is very intelligent. You can hate him all you want, and that's fine. You can have all your reasons. I'm not saying not to, but I am saying he's very intelligent, very calculated, very strategic. And every time we seem to misunderestimate that, he comes back with a bang. So if you don't like him, don't underestimate his intelligence. But I know a lot of people at this point, especially the left loves to just insult, but they're so anti-bully. The left drives me nuts because they're so hypocritical. At least the Republicans are openly evil, right? They openly don't care about people and will let people starve. Listen, they're all evil. It's different flavors. That's the evil I choose. The evil I choose is the one where I know what I'm getting versus when am I going to get stabbed in the back again while you act like my best friend. So what I've been detailing right now is the possibility of Trump doing executive orders. So nothing's really been expected when it comes to executive orders. And the reason nobody right now is really expecting anything is because, well, Trump's in this to try to win the election. And right now, all of his goals, all of his resources are about him coming together and trying to get this election overturned, which is what he's working on. Yes, I know several people say, okay, but his lawsuits keep getting rejected. Well, they're getting rejected in lower courts, which I think that's his ultimate plan. And a lot of people don't understand the court system enough to know just because something gets overturned in state federal court doesn't necessarily mean anything when your plan is to go to the Supreme Court. Again, why do you think he tried to stack the Supreme Court in his favor? Both sides have been playing political chess, and I've been showing you guys for months where this is at and where they're trying to make things strategically in their advantage. That's what Trump has done. However, like I told you guys, on the flip side, as we know with Nancy Pelosi, she wanted to make sure and stack things in her favor with the post office and the election. Now, we've also heard a couple other things. We've heard from Trump's camp. They've said Trump doesn't want to do anything right now before the end of the election because if he doesn't win, he doesn't want to be known as the president who left us a bunch of debt. But now that's changing because things are starting to get really bad. And the numbers before, even though people are suffering like crazy, the numbers are all still in Trump's favor economically. But we're starting to have the unemployment numbers rise. Like I said, we're starting to have very visible problems in society. And now the Trump administration is doing a bit of a shift. And in the shift that they are doing, they are starting to shift and say, the American people need more help now. Now, I will say to Trump's credit, he has been in there with his administration. They have been desperately trying for months to try to get a deal done with Democrats. The Democrats have sabotaged it every way. And then the Republicans won't even come to the table. So White House Republicans, Mitch McConnell won't even come to the table. And when the Democrats do, they want to take too much money while they're screwing us over. While the Republicans don't want to hardly spend anything, and what they do spend on, it doesn't go nearly hard enough to help us. Basically, everybody's screwing us and nobody wants to help us. Welcome to politics. This is why I have a hard time understanding how Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi were voted back into office with all of these antics that they do. I personally don't get it. I don't understand it. But this is where we're at right now, and we have a very interesting interview come out from the White House from Peter Navarro. Now, you've probably heard, if you watch other stimulus checks, you've heard them talk about this. You guys know me, though. I like to go into the depth, the detail, and minutia and see what we can extract, because I think there's a lot of good telling things in this interview, and he spoke about some things that I think are very, very important that you rarely hear people talking about. So let's go ahead. I want to pull up first an article from Fox, and so we can just kind of get a little bitty overview of what he said and how this can affect us. So this is from foxnews.com. It says, Navarro, U.S. facing economic chasm without more virus aid. Oh, we didn't know that. White House trade advisor exhorts Congress to act now. So, and he, by the way, Peter Navarro, like they just said, he's the White House trade advisor. So he is somebody that's in the Trump administration and works closely with Trump. The United States is facing an economic chasm unless Capitol Hill gets its act together and passes another virus relief bill, White House trade advisor Peter Navarro warned Wednesday. Navarro told Outnumbered Overtime that while the economy seems to be improving, it is doing so at a slower rate, which he said means we are facing a chasm that we are likely to go into unless we act now. That chasm you're going to hear about, and he's going to talk about, that has to do with all these major programs ending at the end of December. So eviction moratoriums, rent help, student loan debts as well. The big one, unemployment. That unemployment stimulus has been long gone. That's not the issue at hand at this point. The issue that we're now facing when it comes to unemployment, unfortunately, is that a lot of people are going to lose their benefits, period. People who are on extended benefits, which is probably the majority of people on unemployment at this point, unless you just recently applied. People on the PUA is going to be gone. It's going to be a disaster, and right now, there's nothing in place to stop this. So that's what they're talking about when they're talking about this cliff or this chasm that's coming. So it says, Navarro told Outnumbered Overtime, that's the interview, that while the economy seems to be improving, it is doing so at a slower rate, which means we are facing a chasm that we are likely to go into unless we act now. And he says we are facing a chasm here because of the fiscal stimulus relief packages going down, and we are entering a second wave of this lockdown, Navarro added. And those twin forces are going to really hit us in that way. Unless Capitol Hill gets its act together and steps into that breach, we're going to have an issue. Navarro went on to stress that Congress needs to act now and can't wait until millions of Americans fall into the chasm and won't be able to get out. That's right. Guys, once you fall into poverty, it can be really hard to pull yourself out, especially if you don't have enough food to keep your immune system going during a pandemic. Once health hits, it gets real hard. Trust me, I know. And I know a lot of you know. A lot of you are living it right now with me. Navarro went on to stress that Congress needs to act now and can't wait for millions more to fall into the chasm who won't be able to get out. You lose small businesses, you lose them forever, he adds. And yes, that's correct. So I don't know why we only had one round of PPP funding in March, and that's come and gone. So many businesses, guys, are gone forever. Like, there aren't really programs to get them back up and running. There's too many variables to be able to do that. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer have attempted to convince Republicans to meet in the middle between House Democrats' more than $3 trillion proposal and Senate Republicans' $1 trillion offer. But the idea has been a non-starter with Republicans, who have indicated they have had little interest in passing another multi-trillion-dollar spending bill after passing the $2.2 trillion CARES Act earlier this year. So I do want to say this is a little misleading. Now, I can understand if this is from a few days ago, guys. This was from like 3 days ago. This article literally says this was posted 3 days ago. Now, why am I saying this is misleading when it comes, and again, just, it's funny, Fox News is just becoming crap like the rest of them, but then again, Fox News has always had crap too. I think I said this in another video. I'll never forget Bill O'Reilly. Oh, I can't stand Bill O'Reilly. And several people at the top weren't real nice to women. Please infer at Fox. So I'm not real happy with them. But Bill O'Reilly and his war on Christmas. Get out of that. That's the big pressing issue for you. Get out of here. Just pandering makes me so mad. So listen, well, I'm going to read this again, and I want to go over where this is incorrect. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer have attempted to convince Republicans to meet in the middle between House Democrats' $3 trillion proposal and Senate Republicans' $1 trillion offer. That's not correct. So yes, Pelosi and Schumer, to an extent, have been willing to negotiate. They've negotiated with the White House, not the Republicans. However, just recently, Mitch McConnell stepped up and said, okay, the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, just freed $450 billion for us to use for stimulus. Let's meet. And of course, Pelosi, I called her Pelosi. Pelosi and Schumer are silent because welcome to America 2020. This is just how crap is. It's horrible, it's unfair, and it doesn't make sense. So I feel like a lot of this was just a dog and pony show for the Democrats. And then it says the House's proposal was $3 trillion. Well, they came down to $2 trillion, and the Senate was $1 trillion. But the idea was a non-starter with Republicans who indicated they have little interest in passing another multi-trillion-dollar spending bill after the $2.2 trillion CARES Act earlier this year. Now, there is some truth to that. There are, out of the 100 senators we have, 22 of them had said, we don't want to pass anything related to stimulus. 22 of the Republicans, because again, good, kind, caring people. But when it comes to a lot of this, first of all, the Democrats, it was at $3.4 trillion, so that's not correct. They came down to $2.2. The Republicans were at $0.5 trillion, came up to $1.9. So I wish they'd get their facts straight, but then again, it's mainstream news. It's not like you can expect much from them. While the economic outlook has brightened a bit in recent months, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has repeatedly indicated that the economy could use more fiscal support. On Wednesday, there were new signs of an economic slowdown as the latest jobless claims figures from the Labor Department show the number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits rose again last week, like I've been saying. The figures show that 778,000 workers have sought aid in the last week, about 4 times the pre-crisis level. While it's well below the peak of nearly 7 million in late March, when states first implemented lockdown measures to curb the spread of the virus, it marks the second consecutive week of an increase in claims. The number of people who are continuing to receive unemployment benefits fell off a little, more than 6 million, a decline of 299,000 from the previous week. Close to 68 million Americans, roughly 40% of the nation's labor force, have applied for aid since the virus lockdowns began in mid-March. At the same time, a second estimated released Wednesday by the Commerce Department showed the U.S. economy grew at a record pace during the third quarter, but the fourth quarter is not doing as great, and we know a Q1 of next year is going to be bad. Gross domestic product, GDP, increased 33.1% during July, August, and September, unrevised from the first estimate and in line with the expectations of analysis surveyed by Refinitiv. Navarro pointed to the GDP increase as well as other positive economic data on Wednesday, including the fact that existing new home sales are really strong and that durable goods, our core capital goods, are off the charts, which he noted means manufacturing is strong. There's some discrepancy in that we'll get into in the video. It says, however, in addition to the rising jobless claim figures, Navarro pointed out that personal income is going down as well. Well, of course, people can't make money. They're either not working or took pay cuts. He stressed that all the infusions of cash into the economy from the previous relief bill have been going down. There's nothing left, guys. Come on. And therefore, to stimulate the economy, Congress needs to act immediately. We got to get a phase 4 bill passed here on the Hill forthwith. I'm sorry. One other thing. Who uses words like forthwith? I feel like I've never in my life used the word. I don't think I've ever used the word forthwith, and you rarely hear that. That sounds like old English. Forthwith, doesn't it? I understand that the folks on Capitol Hill can't get along and they like to argue, but there are 3 things they need to agree on, he added. Navarro suggested that more money needs to be added to the extremely successful Paycheck Protection Program designed to keep small businesses afloat during the pandemic. He added that another stimulus check similar to the $1,200 sent to most Americans in April is needed, as well as a reboot on our unemployment compensation. Amen. He said, if those 3 measures are implemented, it will serve as a fiscal bridge until Americans are able to get access to a virus vaccine, which would ultimately help the economy. Okay, so I want to go ahead, I want to pull up this interview, and then I want to break down some of what's being said, where some of the lies are, where some of the truth is, and what we can expect, and what all this means. So, take it away, Pete.
My first question is, there's been widespread reports that your office, as well as your colleagues, are going to continue to put pressure on China in the remaining weeks left in the administration. Can you forecast for us what some of your focus is going to be?
Kevin, I can tell you what we've done. Just last week, we had an executive order signed by the president, which cut off investment in Chinese companies that build the weapons to kill Americans. As to what else might transpire over the next several weeks, that's up to the president to reveal. What I'd love to do for you, Kevin, is just to talk now a little bit about our bread and butter, which is the economy. And we had a bunch of things come out in terms of indicators today and over the last week. And for me, I think what's really important, and for the people of America, is to understand that we're moving towards what could be a precipice unless we get to a phase 4 deal. And if I may, let me just tell you the good, bad, and the ugly. I mean, if you look at the data, we had an incredible surge in consumption, 40% increase in the Q2, the highest on record. Home sales, both new and existing, are very, very robust. Durable goods is really a bright spot, core capital goods. And the GDP, as you know, comparing that to Great Britain, as you just said, is like we had a revision and it held at the 33%. And then the other good news about it is that the inflation is well below target. But here's the bad and the ugly. We saw uptick in unemployment insurance claims. We saw personal income go down. Now, both of those two things are related to what I describe as a trajectory of money that's been injected through the stimulus and relief package. And clearly, we're well past that peak. We're moving down into a place where the PPP program and the unemployment compensation program.
Well, do you support Secretary Mnuchin's decision to try to put $426 billion back into a private account from the Federal Reserve? I mean, when so many states, as you know, are red states, blue states are calling on there to be immediate assistance, why not just use the money that's already been allocated?
That's for Secretary Mnuchin to have that conversation with you, Kevin. But what I will say that I think needs to be done is in the phase 4, you've got a number of core things in there. The PPP program, which was the small loan program, was tremendously successful in helping small businesses, and it needs a top up. The problem we have, Kevin, is we're losing these small businesses, and what we learned from the crash in 08 and 09, that once you lose them, it's hard to get them back. So we really need to do that. We also need to extend unemployment insurance compensation, because all of that, by the end of December, that's all gone in terms of the emergency, and people are hurting. That's going to hurt consumer spending and the like. So that's necessary. And then we had a really good stimulus with that $1,200 check per person that went out. And I think that would be what we need, is a bridge, a fiscal bridge, to the point where the vaccines kick in and we're able to get back to a semblance of a regular economy. Having said that, though, is we do have these structural adjustments that are going to have tremendous impacts that we're going to have to figure out how to wade through, and that's going to be difficult as well.
And you mentioned those small businesses. I've heard from a lot of them, and they don't need more debt. Their balance sheets are full of debt. They need grants. How realistic is that?
Taylor, the PPP was structured in a way that it was effectively a grant. They were forgivable loans, so if you got that money as a loan and you complied with the terms, which is to say that you kept people working, among other things, then that's forgiven. So there's really no difference. I think if you just give people money without those restrictions, I don't think you get to that same result. So
some of the concerns, though, are that that's only if they keep people on their payroll. They don't need those workers anymore because there's no business. How do you give them grants even if they have to permanently let these people go because there is no money coming in?
You raised the conundrum here, because, Taylor, what we see, and in your earlier segment, you were talking to somebody about how people are working remote, and when are they going to get back to full and all of that. I mean, we have profound structural adjustments that are primarily hitting our major metropolitan areas, and restaurants, office buildings, the transportation sector. All of these things are going to change in ways which probably won't snap back to what they used to be. So we're going to have to figure that out. My own view is, and this is consistent with President Trump's philosophy, is that in order to offset the lost service sector jobs, we're going to have to make it up in manufacturing jobs. And that means bringing more of our manufacturing here. But, one of the bad news is part of the data was that our trade deficit went up. Our trade deficit's going up because we're buying more than we're selling. Part of that is because we are recovering faster than much of the rest of the world. But over time, what we got to do is create jobs here, and our best shot is going to be by creating manufacturing jobs, kind of in the Trump image, where particularly for blue collar Americans.
Precisely, but I mean, The Economist, and I'm on my Bloomberg terminal right now, and it says Wednesday's data indicates that the economic rebound is becoming more tenuous amid soaring coronavirus cases, fresh lockdowns, and an extended deadlock in Congress over a new stimulus package. The markets are anticipating that there's going to be additional stimulus. I don't want to go to the talking points of Republicans versus Democrats on why there hasn't been a stimulus deal, but how do you, for both of us, but how do you actually break through this? Because you're staring down a December 11th deadline to keep the government open. You've got coronavirus cases. Respectfully, the data disagrees with you that it's just impacting the cities. It's impacting the heartland just as much. So how do you actually provide this assistance, not in terms of long-term restructuring, but right here and right now?
Yeah, well, these are the questions. And I think the conversation you and I and Taylor are having is the way, I think, to break the impasse, because we're having, I think, an intelligent conversation about what I describe as the second derivative problem. The first derivative, it looks like things are still getting better, right? But the second derivative is they're getting better at a slower rate, which means eventually that flips. So what I see ahead is a chasm as all of these programs expire and we struggle with these structural adjustments. I take your point that the heartland's hurting as well, but I would say that it's the major metropolitan areas that disproportionately are suffering pain in these service sectors. But the point, Kevin and Taylor, is that let's have this conversation. What I'm sending out as a message to you and the American people today is we can see what's coming. And if we can see what's coming and it's bad, we need to be able to avoid it. And the way to avoid it is basically hit those 3 points of the compass in a phase 4 deal, which was the PPP small business loans, a stimulus check, and more relief for unemployed workers. And if we don't do that, there's going to be a lot of pain in America, particularly. Look, this is these lockdowns are a regressive tax, meaning that they hurt the people least able to afford it the most. These are the lower income service sector workers that have been kicked to the curb by the virus from China. And we intelligently, now the election's over, we as a country have to look at the chessboard and figure this out. But having this conversation is an important conversation to have.
Note time, because I couldn't find a transcript. I learned you can just look up transcripts online. I got so excited. I spent a lot of time just hearing what they said and typing. It's not, well, when I say a lot of time, it's more a lot of energy. Not that much time, because I'm a quick typer, I'm a quick talker, anything with communication I'm fairly quick at. But still, not something you want to spend time on. But it also gives you a better gist of the information, so I don't always mind. So the reporter, by the way, the reporter is funny on this because he asked a question that he clearly didn't understand what he was asking. I'll get into that in a second. It says, by the way, let me know, sound off in the comments, did you pick up on the part that he just didn't understand what the EFF he was talking about? Let me know. So it says, reports that your office and colleagues will continue to put pressure on China. What efforts will you do? I don't really care about this right now, but he does talk about stimulus. That's why I brought this up. It says, we just had executive orders from Trump, which cut off investments in these companies that build weapons to hurt Americans. As to what else might transpire over the next several weeks, that's up to the president to reveal. I would like to talk now about our bread and butter, which is the economy. Again, he segues, guys. Indicators came out today. And for me, I think that's really important for me and the people of America is to understand we are moving toward what could be a precipice unless we get a phase 4 deal, the next stimulus deal. Let's look at it good, bad, and ugly. If you look at the data, we had a huge surge in consumption, 40% in Q2. A lot of what he's going to say is in Q2. So remember when I said this isn't completely accurate? So the numbers that Fox was quoting is not for now. That was in Q2 when things were still going okay and we had some stimulus injected in the economy. So again, he says there was a 40% increase in consumption in Q2, highest in record. Home sales, new and existing, were robust. I wrote robots for some reason. Some of my typos make me giggle. The home sales were robots. Hey, in the next few years, it may be that way anyways. Maybe I'm just picking up on things. Durable goods, care, capital goods, GDP, comparing it to Britain, we had a revision and it held at 33%. Other good news is inflation is well below target. But here's the bad and the ugly. We saw the uptick in unemployment claims recently. We saw personal income going down. Both two things are related to what I describe as the trajectory of money that's been injected through stimulus and relief packages. We are well past that peak. We are moving down where the PPP program and the UI stimulus programs are done, and then they got cut off. And he says, this is the Ray doesn't know what he's talking about. Do you support Mnuchin's decision to pull $450 billion out of the Fed? When red states and blue states call us and they need immediate assistance, why not use that money and let it be reallocated? Sound off in the comments. Do you know what's wrong with this by watching my videos? Do y'all know? Okay, let's bring this up. That money, that $450 billion isn't just woohoo money you can spend anywhere. That was written as a part of the CARES Act, which is now law for the year of 2020, that was set aside for the Fed, for the Federal Reserve, to use for programs to help small businesses. That program is expiring, and Mnuchin doesn't want to go ahead and renew it because it didn't really help people with small businesses. It helped the rich people at the top get really cheap or free money. And there's a ton of money still left over from it. So Mnuchin said, let's take this money, let's repurpose it back to Congress to be able to do something with. You can't just take the money and Mnuchin's like, I now declare we're helping red and blue states as they chose. It doesn't work that way. So I think it's funny. It's like, why did you ask that question when it's clear in that question you don't know what you're talking about? Now, the only thing I could see is that if there's some secret loopholes we don't know about. We know Trump and his lawyers have looked into several of them, and the reports that have come back have said the Treasury has said there's really nothing he can do legally to take that money and help the American people with it. So Mnuchin is going and taking that money to help the states and the American people. So he doesn't understand. It's always funny to me when you don't understand the question that you're asking. I have a really funny situation that I will talk about here soon with NAA. Like I said, we have one more date coming up. Hopefully this will be the end of it, but we'll see how far they want to put themselves in a hole, as always. But with NAA, it's what they're doing is really funny because they at kind of a hearing situation, I'm not sure what to call it, they were asking questions where I couldn't answer them because I was like, I don't know how to say this politely. You don't understand what you're talking about and you don't understand what you're asking me. And it just reminds me of that when he says that. No disrespect. Hey, you can't get everything right all the time. And, you can't be a genius or, at everything. You would just think that whoever the people are that prep them with the info, because really these people they're not just super geniuses. People are prepping them with info, would have understood what they're asking. Just makes me giggle. Says, that's for Mnuchin to answer. I think that's a good answer there. He says, what needs to be done in phase 4 is get to the core of things. The PPP program, small loans program, was tremendously successful in helping small businesses. The problem is we are losing these small businesses. What we learned in the crash of 08 and 09 is that once they're gone, it's hard to get them back. We need to get extended unemployment benefits in December. That's all gone. That's right. People are hurting and will hurt spending. We had a good stimulus with that $1,200 check per person, and I think that's what we need with a fiscal bridge to the point. I lost my place. There it is. To the point where the vaccines kick in and we can get back a semblance of regular economy. We have structural adjustments that have tremendous impacts to wade through. I think all of this is accurate. I think we do need to bring back the PPP. I think we should bring back the EIDL and let it be used what it was supposed to be used for and give people those $10,000 grants they didn't get. That sure could have helped a lot of businesses, but nobody in the government came down on the SBA too much. They had a few hearings. A couple people got hard with them. That's it. At the end of the day, nobody cares. Nobody cares we're struggling or starving. And I agree. It's not like you can close the business, wave a wand, and reopen it. You got to have the employees. You got to have them trained. You have to have, the capital to get up and running. There's all these things you have to have. And that's why I've said it's so sad that we've lost so many businesses. Now it says, And small businesses, they don't need more debt. They need grants. How realistic is that? That was one of the interviewers, and she is spot on. He says the PPP was structured in a way that it was a grant. It was a forgivable loan. If you compiled it in terms of the loan, if you kept it there, and if you kept people working and you followed the rules of what the loan was, then that loan was forgiven. So there is no difference. If you just give the money without restrictions, you aren't going to get the same result. And now, good points were made here. It says, the concerns are that if you only keep people on payroll, but they can't keep them there because there's no business, what are they supposed to do? And this is where Peter Navarro, and I appreciate that he was honest, he says, you raised the conundrum here because we have profound structural adjustments that are hitting major metro areas. Restaurants, office buildings, transportation, all of these things are going to change in ways that probably won't snap back where they were supposed to be. My view and Trump's philosophy, in order to offset the lost service sector jobs, we will make it up in manufacturing jobs. Bring manufacturing here. Bad news is, part of the data, our trade deficit is going up because we are buying more than we are selling. Part of it is we are recovering faster than the rest of the world. Over time, we need to create jobs here, and our best shot is creating manufacturing jobs for blue collar. Well, I think that's correct. I think we need to bring those jobs back regardless. We've lost those jobs overseas because we've allowed American companies to just leave and go to places, really bad, countries where it's not good conditions and make things even worse for those people. So I think we should bring those jobs back. But yeah, the service sector, restaurants, hospitality has just been desecrated, guys. So he says, the economists say Wednesday's data said the economic rebound is becoming more tenuous with the virus, lockdowns, and the Congress not getting more stimulus. Markets say there will be additional stimulus. How do you actually break through these issues? You are staring down a December 11th deadline. The virus cases data disagree with you that it's only affecting cities. It's getting to the heartland now. How do you fix this? Good question. He says, conversations that you, I, and Taylor are having breaks impasse. Come on. Well, let's just get on the news and have conversations. And I know that's not what he's saying. I know that's not what he's fully implying. But, y'all need to make some action happen. He says, we are having an intelligent conversation on what I describe as a second derivative problem. And that's another thing. How many months? They've had all year to have conversations. Somebody get their act together and help. First derivatives. Looks better, but the second looks at a slower rate, which flips. And he says, so the first derivative is things were looking better. And now the second one is that now things are going at a very slow rate for the economy. He says, what I see ahead is a chasm. These problems expire. And that's completely correct. Because with this chasm that he's talking about, we're going to go off. And they talked about this in the summer and the fall. If we don't get help for unemployment, if we don't get help for these things, we're going to fall off a financial cliff. And the cliff, we've already started to fall. And taking away the FPUC and the extended benefits from unemployment, splat, we're on the ground, y'all. So he says, I take your point that the heartland is hurting as well, but I would say that major metros have disproportionately suffered in pain in the service sector. My point is, let's have this conversation. What I'm sending out is a message to the American people. If we can see what's coming and we can see it's bad and we're able to avoid it, and to do that, we need to hit the 3 points of a phase 4 deal. The PPP loan, stimulus check, more relief for unemployment. If we don't do that, there's going to be a lot of pain in America. These lockdowns are regressive tax. They hurt the people least able to afford it the most. I was really happy when they said this because I feel like this hasn't been said enough. The lockdowns are supposed to help the downtrodden, the chronically sick, the people like you and me. At the end of the day, they end up screwing us even more. And he also goes into detail talking about how the service sector people are hit, the low income people are hit the hardest with all of this. And he says, when the election is over, let's look at the chessboard game to figure it out. But let's have conversations. Did you hear the last part of what he said too? When the election is over. I feel like in that statement, he very clearly proved what I've been saying about the fact that I don't think any of these people really have any intention of doing anything to help us until the election is officially and fully over. However, there are glimmers of hope because we have these deadlines coming up in December, the 2nd, the 7th, which are voting days, and the 11th, which is the stopgap for the government shutdown. Those are some little beacons of hope as well. We are now hearing this narrative change. Remember, we've had Larry Kudlow, the ultimate positivity. We're in a huge V-shaped recovery guy. That's all we've heard. And we know some of it's crap, but some of it's also been accurate. Now we have Peter Navarro directly from the White House saying, guys, things are going to get bad. And we know President Trump likes to do optimism, sometimes blind optimism. You can agree or disagree with that. I'm just stating what is. And now we actually have them ringing the alarm bells. So what does that mean? So I feel like it's a bit of a toss-up Because of that, we could have Trump step up and try to help in some way. There are also big pushes on both sides of the aisle. Now Nancy Pelosi is getting really pushed to do a smaller stimulus bill while they create a bigger one. But again, I just don't see either side, unless it's Trump for his own reasons. I don't see either side right now stepping up and helping any of us until they know who's securely won the election, so they can know where their bargaining chips fall, where their power lies. Because our lives are just pawns to be played with from these people, and we keep electing them. Okay, guys, if you like this video, please help me and my channel out and give me a big thumbs up. Like the video, subscribe, hit notifications so you can be notified what's from the pipeline with you and your stimulus money, everything in the economy and politics. Also, sound off in the comments, y'all. I want to hear everything you have to say. And guys, please share this content with as many people as you know that are struggling right now. People who are on unemployment, waiting for unemployment, stimulus checks, SB loan and groceries, and everything in between. I've got tons of tools and tons of resources to help you during this difficult time, and I would love nothing more than to help as many people as possible. And guys, the more you like, subscribe, comment, hit notifications, share the content, the more my channel grows, the more things I can do to give back to you guys. So for instance, my $100 gift card giveaways, which I'm announcing 2 winners on Monday. Very simple. This is all you have to do to be eligible. Like every video you see, subscribe, hit notifications, comment, share the content, boom. You're entered, you're eligible. That's all you have to do. Make sure and do it for every single video. And guys, the new rule, the more comments you leave, the more times you share, the more chances you have to win. So if you leave 100 comments, 100 times more chance you have to win a gift card. Yay, good luck. Also, guys, if you want more one-on-one stimulus help, find me on Facebook, Katie's Insight, like the page, join the group. Katie's Corner will be changed to Katie's Insight soon. Go in there, ask all the stimulus questions you want. We have people trying to help people on a one-on-one basis find stimulus money in your area. This is free. Nobody's selling anything. We're just all trying to help each other because we're scared. So that's where it is. Okay, guys, I'm going to go take a break and get all these videos ready, and hopefully this all can help you and we can get some good info to you. Take care, blessings. I will see you soon. Hugs, mwah, and kisses. Bye, guys.